Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Chase at Rocky Mountain. Thank you so much for checking in. So today we have a classic in the dual sport adventure touring category for helmets. It is the XD4 from Arai. Now, if you have followed us on the adventure rides and all that we've been doing over the years here at Rocky Mountain, you could very easily argue that the XD4 and even the XD3 before this came out has been on more heads, has seen more miles and more hours than any other dual sport adventure helmet. And it just goes to show you that us here, we are big fans of the XD4. Don't take our word for it. Go read rider reviews. But I want to share with you as we go through and talk about this helmet, some of the feedback and some of the reasons that riders here at Rocky Mountain do like the XD4 so much. So we'll get into that. Now, as far as Arai goes, it's a Japanese company, been around for a very long time, very traditional. They really haven't changed the way that they build their helmets for a very long time. And I'll explain, the technology and why they do what they do, but they kind of have that motto, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And when you look at the XD4, and even on paper, it might not look as flashy as some of the other helmets that are available, but like I said, as we get in and talk about it, you can see there's a lot going on with these helmets. So pretty dang cool. And the last thing I will say is personal opinion, but when you look at Arai or even companies like Shoei, if you look at the build quality of their helmets, in my opinion, I think it's hard to beat. I think just the craftsmanship, because their helmets are handmade in Japan, it's really hard to beat just how well put together these helmets are. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Now, as far as the fitment goes, it's very important. You want to make sure you get the size and the fit that's going to be best for you. So what we do is we give you free shipping both ways on your first exchange if you need to swap it out for a different size. So if you get a large and think, you know what, I think I need to go with the size large, you can send it back. We'll give you free shipping and we'll get you that size large so you're happy with what you get. But now, here's a couple other big things about the fit with the Arai. And this is one of those key reasons that I talked about why riders here like this helmet so much. It is just so dang comfortable. It fits a lot of different head shapes really well, but it does have more of a medium oval head shape to it. But the fit on this thing is just really good. They do a phenomenal job with their cheek pads. They're contoured, so they just kind of wrap around to fit the shape of your face really nicely. Just overall a super comfortable helmet. But on top of that, and what we're excited to talk about, is Rocky Mountain now carries all the additional cheek pads in different thicknesses and comfort liners. So when you buy your XD4, and you're trying it on, and say you get a size medium, well, we have a chart that you can look at on the product page that will show you what thickness comes stock or standard in the helmet that you bought, and then it will show you the different cheek pad thicknesses and comfort liner options that are available. So if you get it, you're like, you know what, the crown of the head fits really good, but I wish the cheek pads were maybe a little bit thicker or a little bit thinner, well, you can just interchange the cheek pads or the liner to get the exact fit that's going to be best for you. Or if you've had an Arai helmet for years now, so if you had an XD4 or an XD3, and you're like, you know what, the cheek pads are pretty worn out, it's time to get some new ones in there, you can just buy new cheek pads or a comfort liner and slap it in there. But here's what Arai recommends, is that when you buy a helmet, every time you try on a helmet new for the first time, it's going to feel pretty snug, or at least it should, because the snugger a helmet can fit, they say that the more it's going to help protect you. But you got to remember that cheek pads and comfort liners, they're going to break in a little bit over time. So it's better to err on the safe side of getting a cheek pad or a liner that's maybe a little bit snug feeling, or you think it's maybe a little too snug initially, because they will break in a little bit. So if you feel like your helmet after it broke in got looser and looser than you would want it to be, well, if you're going to exchange your pads, maybe go with either a thicker cheek pad or a thinner liner, or vice versa, whatever's just going to give you the best fit possible. But it is pretty cool that they do that. Also, with the comfort liner, just something unique here is right here on the sides, you can see this piece that I have right here, this little 5mm piece also up here, basically right on the crown of the head. These are removable. So if you get this and you're like, you know what, I feel like the liner just needs to be a little bit thinner, you can actually remove these pieces just to give you a little bit more room. So you can customize that. My only advice or word of caution would be, once you peel those off, they're glued on there, so you'd have to get glue to put those back on. So just something to be mindful of. But like I said, very comfortable helmet with all the cheek pads and liners available, easy to customize and get the exact fit that you want. All right, so enough of that. Now, let's talk about their shell construction. So like I mentioned earlier, Arai really hasn't changed things for a long time. And now you're going to be DOT and Snell certified with the XD4. So for riders looking for a Snell certified helmet, you are getting that. But the way they make these, and like I said earlier, they are handmade in Japan, is they have their complex laminate construction and they call it superfiber. And it's a material that Arai uses, and the reason that they use superfiber is that it is a super strong material. And what it allows them to do is build a very strong and lightweight outer shell with that superfiber, and that allows them to use softer materials with the EPS liner on the inside of the helmet. And they say actually that superfiber is about 30% stronger than is your traditional fiberglass. And they say that when you do have an impact, obviously the inside of your helmet, that EPS is the first thing that your head's contacting. So if you can have a softer material on the inside while still maintaining strength and rigidity on the outside, that's just going to help absorb and be safe for the rider in the event of a crash. So complex laminate construction. Now, another unique feature to the Arai helmets is their R75 shell shape. And this is something that they have done since the beginning. And when you look at any of the helmets, doesn't matter if it's the XD4, if it's the Corsair, their VX4 Pro helmet for motocross, you see that they all have the same shell shape. It's a very round shell. And what they say is that it has a continuous radius curve of at least 75 millimeters. And the reason that they want the roundest shell shape possible, now you do have these covers here that go over the vents. Those do break away in the event of a crash. But the purpose for the round shell shape is their motto or their theory is that when you have a crash, the last thing you want your helmet to do is possibly snag when you hit your head. So if you're on road or the asphalt and you hit the ground, you want the helmet to glance off the asphalt versus possibly having any sort of edges that are protruding that could catch and snag and add additional force or twist the rider's head or the rider's neck. Same thing goes for when you're riding dirt. When you hit the ground, maybe it's a rock or something that you contact, well, the rounder the shell shape, they say the more it's going to glance off the objects. And they don't have, Arai doesn't use any sort of, say, a rotational energy management system like MIPS or some of the other things that we've seen, but their whole theory is that if you have that shell that's going to glance off objects, is basically doing that for you. So you're still getting rotational management, just utilizing that rounder shell shape. Now, with these vents here, we'll talk about that here in just a moment, but that's their R75 shell shape, pretty unique. Again, they've been using it for a lot of years now. Now, as far as venting goes, so looking at it again, it doesn't look like, on paper or even just looking at it that you're gonna have as much venting as some of the other helmets. But again, coming from rider experience, that's not something that we've really experienced issues with. It does a good job of getting enough airflow going through. And something kind of unique is that you have these vents right here on the chin bar, but if I flip this over, you can notice, see these little red tabs right here? Well, I can open and close those vents right here on the chin bar. This mouth guard vent, I can also open and close. And then the next vent you're gonna see are actually on the face shield. So as far as I know, this is the only helmet for dual sport adventure touring riding that has vents that are built directly into the face shield. And you notice though that unlike a lot of other helmets, they don't have vents that are just above the eye port. And a couple reasons for that. So first of all, they say that these are just getting direct airflow right into the entire eye port. And then you're gonna get that air circulating through the helmet. Also can help combat fogging, getting that airflow going through. But another reason that Arai doesn't like to put vents just here above the top of that is because right here, obviously where the helmet is open, is the least strongest point of any helmet. And so they don't wanna possibly compromise the strength and integrity of the shell by putting holes or vents just above the eye port. But as you work your way up, you do have these vents right here on top. So these are getting direct airflow coming through. These also actuate, so you can open and close these vents. And then on the back, again, you've got these big exhaust vents here on top, which also, this little tab right here, those also open and close. And it's kind of hard to see, but right here underneath here, you can actually see the hole that those tabs are covering up. And it's actually, there's multiple stages here. You can have it completely closed off, partially open, or all the way open. So they give you that flexibility. And then down here along the sides at the very bottom, again, you've got these exhaust fins getting that hot air out of the helmet as well. And when we pull the guts out of this thing, you're gonna see that in the EPS liner, they do have some holes in there to help circulate that air. All right, let's talk about the visor next. So the visor, again, with all the hours that we've ridden in this helmet, there's some little things that we have noticed that might not seem like a big deal, but we notice them on our ride. So first up is the visor does a good job at higher speeds. It's a good stable helmet. As far as the wind noise goes with this helmet, It's good. Is it the best that there is out there? I'd probably say no. I think there's some other helmets that are a little bit better as far as just overall wind noise, but it's not bad at those higher speeds. And you also notice too, so one other thing to notice is you have this little chin skirt right here that actually pulls down. So two reasons for that. One, I say it does make the helmet a little bit quieter, but it can also help extract hot air out of the helmet. So that is built into it. But the other thing with the visor that we like is not only is it stable, but it has adjustability. So you can see right here, I can just take this, I can press it down, I can push it up. There's a lot of other visors out there that do have adjustments, but a lot of them, or most of them, you have to either loosen a little screw that's up on the top of the visor in order to move it back or forward, and it's just kind of difficult to do. You basically have to stop the motorcycle, take your helmet off to be able to do that. But with this, you can just reach your hand up, drop it down, and push it up. It's the convenience factor that we like so much about that. That while you're riding, if the sun's in your eyes, or if you are doing some off-road riding, you're getting some roost, just drop it down there. So that, again, it's just one of those little things that we've noticed that we like about this setup. Now, when you get to the face shield, we already talked about those vents that are cut into the top here, but here's some other things that we like. So it's an optically correct face shield. To lift it up, you've got a little tab right here on the left side. So I just take my finger and that pops it up. You do have multiple detents on the way up, but here's what we like about this face shield is if you're out there riding, if it's a warm day, it's a hot day, and you want to get just a little bit of airflow coming through there, but you don't want to have the shield completely cracked or completely open, what we like is that you can just take this and just crack it enough to where it's just sitting over the gasket, but it's still going to give you that airflow that you want coming through. But the reason that we like that is a lot of helmets, when you want to just barely crack it, it really won't do it for you. It either wants to be shut or it wants to go to that very first detent. The problem is that if you have this visor open at this detent, or the shield, excuse me, and it's using this first detent, it's kind of right in your vision and it's distracting. So with this, you can have it just barely cracked and you're gonna get that airflow coming through. Again, it's those small things that we have noticed that we like, that we haven't seen other helmets do as well. And then when you go to close this, you get a good positive snap, and that's going to give you a good tight seal all the way around that eye port. All right, so that's the outside of the helmet. Now, last couple things I do want to mention before we show the inside is you can remove the face shield entirely if you just want to rock this as an off-road helmet, if you don't want the face shield. So it's just 2 screws on each side. You pop those out, take the visor off, and then you take the shield out, put the visor back on, you're good. But what's also nice is, you know, just like I was talking about with the cheek pads, the liner, you know, stuff's gonna wear out on helmets, and a face shield's one of those, where over time, if you're putting a lot of hours in your helmet, you know, if it starts to get scratched up, it's just not as clear as it once was, and you wanna get that swapped out, well, we offer different face shield options. So you can get just a clear, we offer tinted options, there's even some that come with an anti-fog coating or a film on there, so there are different options available, so be sure to check those out. Or if you're buying one new, and you think, you know what, I also want to get a tinted shield just for the days that I'm going to need it, hey, you can grab one when you pick up your helmet. All right, so that's the outside. Let's talk about the inside here. So traditional D-ring with the chin strap. Now the cheek pads, what's kind of unique about these is, let me pull these out real quick. You notice that there's actually no snaps on these. So they're very easy to get in and out of the helmet, and I like this because I've had other helmets, primarily motocross helmets, but the same thing would apply to a dual sport adventure helmet, that utilize snaps, which we see all the time. And I'm the kind of guy that I like to take my comfort liners out pretty often and wash them. I've had a few snaps break, and once those snaps break, you know, you might be SOL. So with these, it's just one less thing that you have to worry about. And you might think, well, how does that thing stay in there? It just does. It does a good job once you pop it into place. I've never had any issues, and I've ridden a lot in Arai's off-road helmet. Never had any issues with the cheek pads moving around when I put the helmet on. So pretty unique what they do there. You do have speaker cutouts with the cheek pads. So if I pop this open, you can see inside here, you've got these foam right here. So pretty easy to get your speakers inside there if you do want to rock those, which again, on our rides, we use a comm system all the time. Now, as far as the comfort liner goes, so you've got the neck roll on the helmet. Yes, it is removable. Do I recommend taking it out if you don't absolutely have to? I do not, because it's pretty, I'm not gonna say it's really difficult, but it is time consuming. It can be a little tedious trying to get that neck roll back into the helmet. So unless you have to, I would say don't worry about taking it out, because the actual comfort liner can come out without removing the neck roll. So let me get this out here. So the liner is actually going to have snaps that are going to hold that in. And again, we already talked about the different options that are available with these. We talked about those 5mm pilloways. But when we get to the inside here, now looking at it, you might think again, wow, there's just really not that much going on there. It seems pretty simple, pretty basic, but there's a lot more than meets the eye. So what Arai does is you've got that again, that complex laminate shell, but then they have a multi-density EPS liner. And what they actually do is, depending on the size of the helmet, you can have up to 4 different densities just within that one EPS liner. And here is why they do that. There's certain areas of the helmet that if you were to have an impact, that are more likely to absorb more energy. For example, one of those areas is right here in the front of the helmet, just above the brow. So they're gonna put, with that EPS in there, they can make the front area, they can make it a little bit thicker, and they can make it a more dense EPS to help absorb those bigger impacts. Same's gonna go for, say, the back of the helmet and on the sides, but then in the areas where you're not as likely to have a big impact and you don't need, the EPS to be that dense, they can make it a little bit softer. And honestly, it's a fine line, but you want to have the EPS be really as soft as possible, because the softer the EPS is, the more energy it can absorb, but you don't want it to be too soft, because if you do have that really big impact, it needs to be able to absorb that energy. So it's a fine line, but Arai's done a lot of testing, and again, they're just maximizing what density is needed and where inside the helmet to give you the safest, most energy absorbing helmet possible. All right, and that is it. That is the XD4 from Arai. They call this kind of a 50-50, 50% off-road, 50% on the street. Again, it's been one of our favorite helmets throughout the years. We've logged a ton of miles in this. We are more than happy to give you more feedback on it if you do want. So leave your comments, your questions below. If you've had an Arai helmet, whether it was the previous XD3 or the XD4 in the past, we would love to hear your feedback. What have been the things that you've liked most and the things that you've disliked about it? We'd like to see all that information. To grab your next helmet, it's really simple. Click on the link or head over to RockyMountainATVMC.com. We ship for free over 75 bucks. Remember, we have that fit guarantee just to make sure you get the size and fit that's going to be best for you. And if you want to stay up to date on videos like this, get subscribed to the Rocky Mountain YouTube channel, hit the notification bell, you'll be good to go. I'm Chase, and we'll see you on the trails.